All right, let's just dive right in. Today, we're going to be looking at the incredibly powerful ideas of Dr. Gabor Mate from his book, The Myth of Normal. And it poses a really profound question. What if the very thing our culture calls normal is actually what's making us sick? So, to get our heads around this, Dr. Mate kicks things off with a fantastic little story. You might have heard it from the writer David Foster Wallace. You've got two young fish just swimming along, doing their thing, and an older fish comes by and says, "Morning, boys. How's the water?" The two young fish just kind of look at each other, swim on a little further, and then one of them turns to the other and asks, "What the hell is water?" See, the point is so simple but so profound. The most important, most obvious realities are often the ones we can't even see. And that's exactly what we're talking about today. The water that we're all swimming in, our culture, and how it's affecting us. And this is where things get really interesting. There's this huge paradox at the heart of our modern lives. I mean, think about it. We are absolutely obsessed with health, right? We spend billions on wellness, on diets, on everything. And yet, our collective health, it's actually getting worse. I mean, the numbers are just staggering. 60%, that's more than half of American adults have some kind of chronic disease. Nearly 70% are on at least one prescription drug. Something is just not right here, and it's way bigger than just our personal habits. And this gets to a key idea: normalize. It's this process where something that's actually really weird or harmful just becomes, well, normal. It just fades into the background. Mate's whole argument is that our so-called normal life, with all its stress and disconnection, is profoundly unnatural. It's almost like we're all living in a giant toxic petri dish that's designed to make us sick, and we just think, well, this is just how it is. So how does this happen? How do we get so disconnected? Well, to really get it, we have to talk about trauma. And this is a big one because Dr. Mate says we've got to completely rethink what trauma even is. It's everywhere, he says, but in ways we might not even recognize. So typically, right, we think of trauma as some big, catastrophic event that happens to us, a war, a terrible accident. But Mate completely flips this idea on its head. He says, look, trauma is not what happens to you, it's what happens inside you because of it. It's the inner injury, the wound, the way you get split off from yourself. That's the real trauma. And he makes this really useful distinction. You've got your capital T trauma, the big, awful stuff like abuse. But then there's small t trauma, and this is the one that affects so many of us. It's not about the bad things that happen, it's about the good things that don't happen. It's the experience of not being seen or heard, of your emotional needs just not getting met. And this can happen even with parents who really, really love you. Okay, so let's just pause for a second and make this real for you. Think back. When you were a kid, and you felt sad or angry or really scared, was there a safe person you could go to and just talk about it? If your gut answer is no, or I don't know, well, according to Mate, that right there is the kind of disconnect that leaves a wound. And that wound, it has a huge consequence. It creates this split between our minds and our bodies. We learn to live up here in our heads. The playwright V, who used to be known as Eve Ensler, put it so powerfully. As a survivor of horrific abuse, she said, the last place you want to be is in your body. And when that happens, when we check out from our own bodies, we stop hearing the signals. We don't notice the stress, the exhaustion, the first whispers of illness. So where does this split even start? Well, it often comes from this impossible, tragic choice that we're faced with as little kids, a clash between two of our most basic human needs. Okay, so on one hand, you have attachment. This is our deep, primal need to connect with our caregivers. For a baby, it's literally a matter of life and death. On the other hand, you have authenticity, the need to be our real, true selves, to feel our gut feelings. Now, here's the problem. What happens when a child gets the message that their authentic feelings, maybe their anger or their sadness, threaten that all-important attachment? Well, it's no contest. The kid will sacrifice authenticity to preserve attachment every single time. We learn to bury our true selves just to stay safe and connected. And that choice, made over and over, doesn't just go away. It becomes our personality. Mate found that people with chronic illnesses often share a whole set of these personality traits. Things like always worrying about other people's needs but ignoring your own, or repressing your own anger. But here's the key. These are not character flaws. They are brilliant survival strategies that we learned as kids when being our true selves felt dangerous. Okay, so how does all this psychological stuff actually lead to physical sickness? Well, that lifelong job of pushing down your true self, it's exhausting. It generates a massive amount of chronic stress, most of which we're not even aware of. See, our bodies are built for short-term stress. Run from the tiger, stress is over. But we're not running from tigers. We're living in a state of constant low-grade stress. And when that happens, the stress hormones that are meant to save you just flood your system 24/7. And the results are devastating. It messes with your immunity. It causes inflammation. Basically, it lays the groundwork for almost every major chronic disease you can think of. And this isn't just about our own personal psychology, right? This is the water we're swimming in. Our entire culture is a stress-generating machine. Think about it. Job insecurity, loneliness, the constant pressure to achieve, it's all baked into the system. It creates what the Scottish Labour leader Jimmy Reid called alienation way back in the 70s. This feeling that we're just pawns in a game we can't control. Okay, so that's a lot. It's a pretty bleak picture. But if the problem is disconnection from our true selves, then the solution has to be a path back to ourselves. Healing isn't about fixing something that's broken, it's about reconnection. And Mate lays out this really beautiful roadmap for the journey back. It's not a 10-step program, it's a process. It all starts with acceptance, just seeing things as they really are without judgment. From there, it's awareness, finally starting to listen to your body again. Then, and this one is huge, it's about anger. Reclaiming healthy anger, not to hurt people, but to say no and protect yourself. That leads to autonomy, finding your own internal compass. Then you can build real attachment, connecting with others without losing who you are. Then comes assertion, just declaring to yourself and the world, I'm here and I matter. And finally, affirmation. This sense of connecting to something bigger than just you. It's really a path to becoming whole. And this is so important, especially in our culture of good vibes only. He says you have to throw out forced positivity. True healing actually starts with what he calls the power of negative thinking, which just means having the guts to look squarely at what's not working, to face the pain, to acknowledge the parts of yourself you've been ignoring for years. And really, that's the whole ballgame. If our normal world is like a kind of mass hypnosis that keeps us disconnected and sick, then the only antidote, the only way to wake up is authenticity. It's about finding your way back to your true self. So, we're back to the fish, the water we're all swimming in. Yeah, it might be pretty toxic. The pressures, the stress, the disconnection. But what if the biggest, most revolutionary thing you can do is just to start to see it? What if that's where everything begins?